What episode number is this? 78?
I don't fucking know. I can find out for you if you'd like.
Episode question mark. Take 1.
I don't have a good intro, but I've got an intro.
I don't even know what we're talking about today. Really? I have some ideas. Of like examples.
Doesn't matter. I will lead this. Hello, and welcome to Incomplete Geeks, a gay geek podcast where we talk about all sorts of geeky things. Sometimes we know a lot. Other times our knowledge is
incomplete.
We're Nick and John, and we're two queens who like to watch and rewatch again.
That's lovely. That's so nice.
We're going to talk about which TV shows, and we're going to try and focus on geeky stuff because
that's what you're here for. Yeah.
Which TV shows are better in a rewatch? That's the focus. We'll obviously talk about which ones sucked as a rewatch, but
I think you need to lead this as well, because if you ask me that question, I would say all of them that I like.
Oh no!
But the thing is, not all of them.
I feel
the ones that. My overarching reaction to that question is, if you like a show and it is good, you should be able to rewatch it.
Yes, you can rewatch it, but which ones are better? We're trying to
specifically
find
better.
We're going to try and find shows that are better in a rewatch.
You got a nice list there, I see.
I have some. These are suggestions. I don't know if any of these will work. Okay. Mainly because I was thinking when Agatha finished. I haven't rewatched Agatha, but I think that would be fun to rewatch it, knowing what you know, like those kinds of shows where you know the things that you get another side of the performances and the storyline.
Yeah,
having known the twist, and it's not all about the twist.
Yeah, and not we're not going to spoil Agatha, but if you haven't seen it, like
yes, we are.
I wasn't going to in that moment.
We're
but let's just say like we'll talk about it once we get into it. But if you haven't seen it and you want to keep that,
I finished like a month ago.
What are you doing?
Finish it. It's what, 8 episodes?
9.
Watch it.
9. Just watch it. Yeah, you should watch it. Anyway, where was I going with that? I don't know.
Cool. Great.
But the point is, like, there's things that you definitely are thinking, okay, like we mentioned in our sort of review. You think, oh, that's why she made that acting choice. Yeah. Because every character's like just a little bit quirky. You're like, you just brush it off like, oh, she's being quirky.
Rewatching them after having watched the Lilia episode would be fun and that sort of thing. I haven't done it yet because I think it's too soon and I don't want to overdo it. But I will rewatch it. And it got me thinking, like, which ones are better or which ones aren't better, which ones kind of get a lot of the thing.
Okay.
On these listicles, the most common answers for shows that are great or the best shows to rewatch are obviously Friends, The Office, Parks and Rec. What's the other one? Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. All the kind of like sitcoms.
Yeah,
they're the ones that people watch and rewatch because there's no real story. It's just
Brooklyn
background.
Nine-Nine is another example.
Yeah, exactly. All those ones.
You don't need to it's good to know sort of some of the overarching story plot points. Like, so gets married, whatever. So came out, But like you can still rewatch any of those shows and still enjoy it.
Yeah,
but I think
that's not what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, I was going to say that's different than gaining more story value because you know something after having seen it the first time.
Yeah.
And going back to watching it.
So I think a big thing about when you rewatch something, you're always going to have less excitement because obviously you know what happens, but you can have more or the same amount of joy. That's what you're going to get from this because there will never be that level of excitement. So I'll start with the obvious one, Game of Thrones.
Right.
And I think that's a great one because unlike the Parks and Rec, Friends and that sort of stuff, when you rewatch it, you're not just putting it on the background. You are rewatching it. And it was such a wonderful kind of, because it took 10 years for that to come out. There was a great point, I think, between 6 and 7, where my housemate hadn't seen any of them and wanted to watch them all beforehand. Okay. So I rewatched them with her.
Yep.
And, it's been 6 years since the first season, and rewatching it, you get so much more detail. being familiar with the characters, the houses, the plots, the backstory, and that sort of stuff. You know this, and then you go back and rewatch it. You're like, oh, they're talking about Targaryens. The first time you watched it, and you're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
I didn't know who any of these, because I hadn't obviously read the book.
Okay.
So you're like, what the fuck's, who is this blonde chick? You know, and going back and rewatching it, you're like, oh, she was a teen. You know, you get such a different perspective on it. And when they talk about the Brackens, the Brywoods, all these funny houses, you know who they're talking about. So when they have all these council meetings and all these plotting stuff, when they're talking about people, you know who the fuck they're talking about.
Now, do you get all that knowledge from watching it the second time, just because you pick out names and places that you recognize from other episodes? Because I'm assuming you still haven't read any of the books, correct? Nope. And so I think that when you watch it the first time, a lot of that just washes over you as
massively.
Details. It could be like Easter eggs that people who have read the books be like, I know what that one means, and it doesn't actually mean anything to the plot. But I had a slightly different experience, because I watched the first series with my ex at the time, who was like, this show is great, and watched it. And he kind of was being vicarious through me. And I had spoiled myself, didn't tell him that I knew that Ned gets his head chopped off in episode, towards the end of the first series.
Spoiler.
Oh, come on. That show? You don't want to spoil Agatha. Like, Ned dies. It's played by Sean Bean. Of course he does. And then after the first season came out, there was a few months before the second season started, and I fucking read all those books.
It was a long time between 1 and 2, wasn't it? Wasn't it a full year?
Yeah, for the episode, But we
you read all the books in a year.
Probably not all the books. I must have read at least the first 2, because when the second season started, then I had that knowledge of, like, I kind of had an idea of these houses and the places. Book 1 pretty much is adapted to season 1, and then in book 2 it's very similar, but they kind of have to cut out some things. Yeah. And then when they get to books 3 and 4 / seasons 3 and 4, then it kind of diverges, because also what is it? 3 and 4 are told. 3 and 4 are written around the same timeline for the most part, but they happen in different geographic locations, which can be confusing to some people. And so they kind of have to pull from book 4 to kind of to talk about storylines in season 3, if that makes sense. Anyway, so I definitely had that for the first season, but that was so long ago that I kind of forget how it went. I agree. I think that is, if I were to watch it again, maybe it might be different for me, because also in the books there's so much more detail that you never even encounter in the show, which is understandable because there's so much detail in the books. But yeah, you can definitely get more from it the second time around.
And even because I rewatched them a couple of, I think because I was obsessed with it, I rewatched 1 before 2 came out, and I think I rewatched 1 and 2 before 3 came out.
Oh, really?
Because the first 5, it was just non-stop rewatching. Yeah. So each time I did that, I think I got so much more from it, because I missed so much the first time and the second time and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
When it came to the big rewatch with my housemate, it was more about just kind of appreciating how fucking good the show was.
It was
when
good.
It's so fun when someone reacts to all the bits that
when
you
you're watching
love.
Somebody that hasn't seen it.
When the fucking Red Wedding is on,
you have to bite your nail, like, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything.
Like, no, should we watch one more? It's like, well, just watch this one and just,
it's so annoying because
put your phone down.
Yeah, put your phone down. I'm not saying something's gonna happen, but you have to watch this next 4 minutes.
And you're trying not to react and watch them. And she's a very reactive. She was like kind of person. It was so fun.
Oh my god.
So,
because you don't want people to like. I lent my DVDs to a gay couple friends of mine, and I was like, just watch the first 4 seasons. And I happened to be in the house where they're watching the one where Jamie gets his hand cut off towards the end of the episode. And one of them was like, "Oh yeah, watch it. I'm just gonna go get a drink." I'm like, "No, you must just stay." I feel bad about telling you something's gonna happen, but you're not gonna want to like leave and then come back in and then hear they got his hand chopped off. You want to have that vicarious experience with the people who haven't seen it.
And then all the White Walker stuff,
the
scale of all the battles. When you're re-watching it with someone, you're like, "Fuck, this was such good TV." Even though you know it kind of like. It teeters off, but then that was long before the final one.
So how do you watch the last?
Well, like that's the thing, because of the finale, I can never rewatch them again, which is the biggest sad part, because of all my favorite shows. I love to rewatch them.
You want to watch the shows that are made well, because then you still enjoy the act of storytelling.
So until they get rid of that,
I still say, I'm going to say it again. I think George R. Martin is taking longer with his last 2 books because he's changed his mind about how it's going to end. I am totally down for it as well.
He has to, he has to change that fucking ending without making it too obvious that he's like, oh god, that was awful. But also anyway.
It was awful. It was awful. Again, like it was made well, which is also why we don't want to watch the last 3 or 4 seasons because they weren't done as well. Especially when you get the last 2, they were just done so poorly. Not getting into the reasons for it, but largely because George R. Martin was no longer showrunner for those last couple seasons.
Fucking Star Wars.
He went off. Yeah, but like that's why we don't want to watch those, and it's a shame. So yeah.
So Game of Thrones, I think is quite unique in that it's quite additive.
Where would you stop if you were rewatching it?
6. I really enjoyed 6, which finished with the blowing up of the
Sept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great finale. I feel like, and I know it's not in the books because obviously they haven't got that far, but I feel like that's the Queen of Fire, that sort of stuff. It's Cersei, it's not Khaleesi, and it's a nice enough kind of way. Past then, it's just like, you don't even care anymore. At least they built up towards that. A lot of people didn't like Hold the Door. I love that. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Cool if you don't like it, but...
Oh, I like it. I just think that was spoiled to me. And I will never forgive the person who did that.
No, you shouldn't.
It was a tweet. And it was like literally the next morning. And I was like, I haven't fucking seen it yet. Why would you say that?
Fucking assholes.
I know specifically who did it, and I will never forgive her. Nope. But anyway, I think the blowing up of the Sept really put a sort of... I was really bored with the whole faith of the Seven Surgeons.
True.
And I was like, I love you, Jonathan Pryce, but this has got to go.
It was too frustrating. It was too real world problems rather than dragon world problems. It was like, what if religion took control over and hates gays? I'm like, this is too much.
We know this. This is no longer fantasy. What's going on? Hang on. This is impacting. This is what's happening in the real world right now. Yeah, don't do this to me.
Don't do it. So I would start. I enjoyed that, and I would finish with there and just pretend it didn't happen.
Also, can I mention last thing? There's hardly any magic in the last couple of seasons, and I'm really annoyed by that. Like it's very scant throughout, but it is a fantastical, magical world, and the dragons coming back, especially in the books, there's a really heavy emphasis on the dragons coming back equals the magic coming back in the world. There's a whole section, the whole sort of part about the where the maesters are trained in Old Town, and like there's one particular character who's like kind of a rebel maester, and he's like, this is magic. This is magic. We have to focus on magic now, and it doesn't.
That's cool.
He's not going anywhere just yet, but he's like, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this, and then he runs off and tries to find a dragon or something. And that aspect is not adapted into the show. Like they just kind of throw all the magic out the window.
I
and
know,
all just
but
backstabby
TV magic looks crap.
King Court drama. It's fucking dragons, Nicholas.
But they look cool because they're physical and you can CGI it, and people are aware of beasts. But if you're like, ooh, spell does this, it would lose the popular vote.
Okay, there's definitely a limit for sure, but like when...
That's why they veered away from it. They wanted it to be about the politics, because then it made it feel much more... And it did, and that's why the whole world fell in love with it. Otherwise, it would have been like more. The Witcher or Merlin or any of that, and people would have been like, some stupid, like...
Yeah, but Witcher, I think there was
Lord of the
focus
fucking
on like creatures is slightly different. But like the last bit of magic I can remember... Tell me if I'm wrong. Aside from the wall and the whole mythos of the wall, there's a moment where like the White Walker sort of transforms a baby. Like that's the last bit of magicalness you ever see.
I feel like Melisandre sets fire to something in the final episode. She's like, the red god, god of Lord of Light. He sets fire to the bonfires, and that helps not at all.
Rolor, whatever. Somebody will know what I'm talking about. Rolor, and no, I forgot that. That's not magic.
That's all that they had. That's all that they gave us. Anyway. Let's move on. To one that we like or the one that we don't like.
Let's go to what we don't like.
The Witcher. This is not my opinion. These are just names that were put out on lists, IMDb, Reddit Quora, that sort of stuff. So these are what people think are better on the rewatch. I barely made it through the first watch of Witcher season 1, so I am not prepared to take this test. Have you rewatched
I rewatched season 1 with my dad, which I knew that he would. And my brother, we agreed that he would really like it, and he did. He just was like, "Oh, it's weird," in a weird, very masculine kind of way. And I was able to. My dad was not very sort of outward with many of his emotions, but he was definitely surprised by some things, and it was nice to have. It wasn't as vicarious I would have hoped, but I could tell he was enjoying it, which is great.
Yeah.
In terms of watching the show again, the first season, I was like, well, I know that she's going to turn into Yennefer, so I'm kind of bored with her sort of learning about it, But that was definitely the low point. I really enjoyed the character of Geralt and getting to meet Yennefer, and then figuring. I got more of the reason that she was trying to do some of the things that she was doing. And I was like, okay, I get like that's her overarching sort of goal. I think it was just to get pregnant, because she had to sacrifice her ability to get pregnant in order to become Yennefer. Do you remember this? So you don't even remember. But I was like, it didn't matter much to me the first time. And the second time I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense as a storyline for her. And that was good. And then he kind of was just roped into it. Yeah, I would say it was good. I haven't rewatched the second series, but I will, because I still haven't seen the third series yet. And we're going to talk about it on the show.
We'll do at some point.
Yeah.
Isn't like the first season, it's like some in the past, some in the future?
Yeah, it's told really well. And you don't, that's a good point, thank you, because you don't realize that. And I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, something's iffy about the timelines. And I didn't grasp exactly fully what it was, but I knew that something was up. It's like, that's not right, because I forget what it was. Like some character was like, hang on, he's from over there or whatever. And when it gets revealed how the timelines sync up, we're basically, give me a second, because I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's
the whole point of the show is to get stuff wrong. It's fine.
I know.
It's the whole show.
Is it Geralt's, all the stuff that happened with, who's the little one? Is it Ciri? Which is, yeah, thank you, Watch, not you. She, like, her stuff happens in the past, and it leads up to the big fight at the castle. That is the start of Geralt's timeline. That makes sense.
Yes.
You're just saying that.
No, I'm just watching. You're so loud. My levels are so loud when you're talking, but that's okay. We have you in stereo.
It's I can edit it. That's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because we start in the castle or whatever, that fight at the beginning of the first season, and that's where it ends up, and
that's where the girl's storyline ends. And so it syncs up, and you see some things that you kind of no. To be fair, there's a couple of things. There's a couple. Oops, sorry, I kicked it in. There's a couple clues that you can pick up on, but I don't think it's really game breaking. Okay. It's not as game breaking as Lilia saying all this shit, and who is trying to convey a message through all of her time travel flashbacks. The clues left in The Witcher are just kind of like, haha, we did this. Did you catch it?
Yeah.
Which is cute, and it's fun to see them, to learn of them, but it doesn't change the story as much. I would definitely watch The Witcher again. I don't know if there's any. So there's no big mystery that's revealed in season 2 that I can remember, but I could be wrong. I'll let you know.
I didn't get that far. Okay.
Next, I approve. With less gusto than Game of Thrones, but no, I thought you were meant to give me one that I didn't like.
Oh, there's one that I didn't like.
Okay. Next.
What about? Well, okay, I'll go on to one that I really agree with. Futurama.
Yes, I am literally watching that now.
I love Futurama. The fact that when did it come out in the year 2000?
2000 or 2001, because the whole premise was he's transformed to it wasn't like the maybe was it 1999 was it?
Family Guy started on my birthday in 1999.
Okay.
I feel they started around the same time. I don't know if there's any way I could find out.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. Alexa, Alexa,
I'll look it up.
What year did Futurama first air?
She's not connected.
Futurama, the TV show, first premiered in the United States on the 28th of March 1999.
99.
Kingdom. Futurama, the TV show, premiered on the 21st of September 1999.
Okay, great.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, yes. So, 1999.
Yeah.
that first episode came out, so the first time we watched it was like I was still in school. We were still in school.
Yes.
So to rewatch it between being a teenager and being a 42-year-old adult, it's just a completely different viewing experience. And the first time I was watching it was more along the lines of like, oh, it's like The Simpsons and kind of not quite as kooky as Family Guy, but this will do until another Family Guy shows up.
Yeah.
But was silly and hilarious.
Yeah.
But when you watch it 10 years later, there's a ton of subtleties in the way all the jokes and stupidness. I think there's a lot of cute little clever stuff, but there is a ton of genius stuff in there that even in my 40s, it's way above my head. Like the smart jokes in Futurama are so fucking smart.
Yeah.
I miss a lot of that anyway, so you've got a better chance at least rewatching it again and again and again.
That's a good point. I did think it definitely starts out just being an overly silly show. I feel like in the first maybe 2 seasons, there's a lot of sort of every line is a pun or a joke somewhat. But then I think whenever they started hiring, I did watch like a YouTube sort of documentary about this, about how they
send me the link. I love it.
How they brought in writers who were like scientists,
mathematicians, yeah, absolutely,
physicists, yeah, and like I think that was from season 3 or 4, and that's when it really just fucking takes off. It's just smart in its humor, and it makes us feel smart watching it as opposed to feeling dumb because you don't get it. It's like, oh, that's actually a thing, and I kind of understand it. It's like.
But even watching YouTube explainers and Easter eggs and TikToks of people being like, "This is why Futurama is smarter than you realize," and it's a mathematician or a physicist saying like, "Oh, because of this and this," and they explain it.
This equation.
Rewatching it, knowing, because you love those scenes and characters anyway, and then rewatching it knowing fucking clever these writers are.
Yeah.
It just adds to it each time, and because it's got so much heart to it in a way that
I was gonna say that.
In a way that Family Guy doesn't. They were the 2 shows that I discovered at the same time. So Family Guy is just terrible people.
Family Guy is just like silly jokes and farting.
Yeah, terrible people doing terrible things, and hey, it's hilarious. But there is so much heart to a lot of Futurama.
Yeah.
And that's carried on with the new seasons and everything like that. Watching them again as an adult is still lovely. And I still cry every time.
Those emotional episodes.
The 7-leaf clover.
Where
he finds like he's pissed off that his brother kept his 7-leaf clover.
Yes,
and then he finds out it's his nephew.
His nephew, yeah.
It's perfect. It's such a perfect way of using sci-fi to tell such lovely, sweet human stories, and it's fucking great.
There's that one. Everyone talks about the one with the dog as well.
Seymour, and he comes back, so it's fine.
What?
You've seen the later seasons, right?
No, that's fine.
They were also 15 years ago.
Oh,
so
those
he comes
ones.
back 15 years.
Might have missed that one.
Where, Bender's Big Score, where he goes back in time. And then,
So
he spends his whole...
I do think I remember that.
I like that because he spends 20 years with Seymour. So that fixes that.
No,
I love it.
Fix that.
No, it's fine.
You can't fix that.
It's much better because it makes me so sad.
Waited forever.
I always like to skip it.
The point is about those emotional... I'm tearing up actually thinking about it. Like that dog! You can rewatch them and you still feel the same way.
Wonderful.
You still feel the same way. Every time they thought that show was going to end, and they made a finale that they tried to like make an emotional conclusion for, mostly just Fry and Leela basically, and what will they, won't they kind of thing. The one finale where the whole world fucking stops, and then
they pause time.
They pause time and they realize, let's just live. Let's just do what we wanted to.
A perfect finale.
It was perfect.
Such a perfect finale. I'm glad it's back because I will always watch it.
Yeah, then they undid the finale so well. Like, okay, like that was so poignant, and that will not be lost just because of the undid it basically. But
do you feel like going around again? I do.
Shut
up, guys. All of that sort of stuff. Yeah. The stuff with his mum where he has the flashback. Oh god, I'm gonna get emotional about it. Anyway, yes. Yeah. So Futurama, it has, I feel like, both the comfort, like you can put it on if you just want, especially the early seasons, the silly stuff with the devil singing fucking brilliant, all that sort of thing. But the emotional ones hit really hard and you get more from it. Dungeons and Dragons, the whole 4-part one about them doing Dungeons and Dragons, so fucking great. Anyway.
Did I miss that one as well?
It was in that weird bit in between when they first get cancelled. Yeah, and so they do 4-part.
They did a 4-part.
They did 3 4-part ones.
Yep.
3?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe it might have been 4, actually.
The time traveling one with Bender, where he goes back in time. The alien from another universe.
I don't remember
that comes
that
in,
well.
And then Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Which is great. Anyway, so it just adds layer and layer of new nerdy stuff every time you watch it.
I'm very happily rewatching those earlier seasons as well. As soon as I finished Voyager, which I'm getting closer to finishing, the last season.
What's this on my list?
What is it?
Star Trek, TNG,
up, really?
DS9, and Voyager.
And Voyager, okay. Neither of us have seen DS9, correct?
I've not seen any of it.
Don't hate us, please. We're just
no, but I imagine that's probably quite a good one on a rewatch because the early seasons. Again, I'm sorry, I didn't watch it. I couldn't get through it when it first came out. The early seasons are a bit like it's a space station, but then they come up with a story towards the back end of the show, which lots of people say is some of the best Star Trek TV there is. I haven't watched it. I'm really sorry. Maybe we'll get around to it. Follow us on Patreon and we'll rewatch it.
Yes. Also that, yeah.
If you want us to watch DS9, we'll watch it. Some of it.
Well, you know what we could do? We could do, if we have enough Patreon supporters, we can give feedback to every episode.
Of course.
Like a bit of a recap. Even if it's like a 10-15 minute sort of recap, like this is why I liked it, this is why I didn't kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Because I've heard so many good things about DS9, but I have yet to experience it. So if you want to live vicariously through us and you don't even have to watch the episodes again if you don't want to. Just watch us reacting to them.
Or you can tell us which ones to watch and shout at us when we're wrong.
Yeah,
that's fine.
In the meantime, however, if you have seen DS9 and you're shouting at us right now, trying to say why this show is good and worth a rewatch, write in and tell us why. We want to have.
And are there key episodes? Do we need to watch the initial seasons, or can we skip to a certain point where the action starts kicking in? So for a rewatch, I imagine knowing that kind of big plot towards the end is coming makes the early seasons like, oh, that's fine, it's just warming up, you get to know the characters, so it makes it more palatable.
True. A lot of TV shows do that though. They kind of take a while to warm up.
Where you don't have that massive expectation of like, this has to be as good as TNG, that sort of stuff. So you're like, it's building, don't worry, we've got the Dominion, that sort of stuff.
Dominion, that's what it is. Don't tell me too much about what happens later.
I have no clue.
Something about some big conflict. All I know is that
Dominion, wormhole is in it.
I think, I was going to say, we do have to know the elements of crossover because of Worf and
O'Brien.
O'Brien, thank you. Let's say the actor's name again.
Colomini.
And is there crossover with Voyager at some point as well?
Only the first episode of Voyager.
Oh, is it?
Because they take off from DS9. They launch their mission from DS9, so they're all in there. If you remember watching DS9,
so that's DS9.
So we can't. I can't talk too much about that. And I would really, really love to. Again, push for the Patreon. I would love to rewatch maybe like the highest rated episodes of Next Generation because I'm such a Voyager stan and I keep my focus on Voyager. I would love to. Because there's so many episodes, I don't know if I want to start with Encounter at Farpoint all the way through. I'd love TNG.
Oh,
I don't think I'd want to do a full rewatch. So it'd be great. Maybe we could do the best of a few episodes a season.
I will personally join Patreon to vote for the episodes.
Exactly.
Rewatch. TNG, I watched that whole season because I didn't grow up with Star Trek for whatever reason. Nobody in my family really was into it. It was terrestrial TV. I lived on a farm. I just didn't sit down to watch a sci-fi show for whatever reason. But then when Netflix came out and I thought, was it a pandemic show? I just decided, like, you know what? I just have to start watching it. And so I started watching it. I watched all the way through.
Did you rewatch that, then go into Voyager? Is that right? Because that's how this started.
I decided, yes.
Because you were rewatching, you would have been rewatching Voyager, and that was just after the pandemic.
That was 2 years ago. We've been doing this for 2 years. I watched TNG in the pandemic. And then I said to friends, 3 years? We are in our third year. Anyway, I don't remember. We watched TNG. What was that look for?
I'm trying to think.
Oh, you don't know? Okay.
I don't know.
I couldn't tell if you were scowling at me or just being pensive. Like that.
No,
like that feature on my meme where Fry's like, what's going on? I watched all of TNG, and then at the time, told you this before, but in case our listeners don't know. I was like, right, I don't want to watch. I watched season 1 of Picard, and I said, I don't want to watch.
Oh no! What, from TNG straight to Picard?
No, I think I watched them.
That's too much of a jump.
I couldn't handle 2 Star Trek shows at once.
I think that's very fair.
And I said, I'm going to finish TNG.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to watch either Deep Space Nine or Voyager. I don't know which one. They kind of overlap. I want to watch one and only one. And at the time, just the friends who I was with saying, Deep Space Nine sucks. Watch Voyager. Janeway is amazing. I'm like, okay.
Who are these friends?
Were you one of them?
I don't think. Maybe if you ask me, that's
no. This
exactly
is like,
what I've said.
This is like Joe Lidster in that lot of Friends.
Well, that's fine because we all agree for this case.
Who I can mention because he's been on.
He's been on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then once I started watching Voyager, then I met other people who were like, "What's wrong with you? Voyager sucks. You should watch these." Yeah. And I was like, "Whatever. I'm into it now."
It's too late now.
And I'm finally in like the 7th season after this long time, but
almost there. We're going to do a watching the final episode.
Finale rewatch.
Fucking finally.
Which I don't know anything about, except it's kind of been spoiled that I guess they make it home. I guess.
Who's they?
Who's that? Maybe they don't all make it home. Somebody I read somewhere. Anyway, nope. Never mind.
Anyway,
not gonna. But how was it rewatching Voyager for you? Oh wait, so we go to Voyager. We're done with TNG first.
Yeah, because I haven't rewatched TNG. I've only
Have
rewatched
you seen all of TNG.
Not fully.
Okay.
I've seen from each season.
Yeah.
Again, it was the days of it's on TV. Oh shit, let's watch it.
Right. And you can watch them out of order. Like it's not necessarily a serial show.
I watched the finale many, many, many years after because I was like, how the hell did that show finish? I think it was when I was traveling. I was like, how did it finish? And watched the final 2 episodes, which don't come for me. I don't think they were that great as a finale. Mainly because I think they all knew they were doing films afterwards. So it wasn't a finale.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the films.
They knew for sure they were going to do films.
Yeah, people.
Thank God.
They knew that they were popular enough that they weren't. It wasn't going to be end of the story. So it wasn't going to be like an emotional. So it was just like an
end of TV. So no, I haven't really done a rewatch. I like 10 years ago I would have watched them.
Yeah.
Some for Luoxana because I love Luoxana, but I want to do some proper ones.
I will curate a list for you, but I need to sit down with all the episodes and sort of see what's good. But the thing is, like, you can do that. I'm sure there's stuff online that you can say which episode's the best, but they're all going to be like the people who think that a whole episode is worth watching just for one particular scene. And I think no, don't do that. Watch it for the story. Don't watch it for just because so and so dies at the end. It's like watch it because the story is good and it has a meaningful impact on the characters going forward. Like everyone talks about. Do you watch the one where he learns how to play the flute? That's a really good episode. And I was like, at first I was like, I don't think that's that good of an episode, but it is because basically he gets like. Picard's on the bridge and he gets like they have this sort of this buoy that there's no life signs on it, and he gets zapped with this sort of light, and then he goes back and lives like the history of these people. Do you remember this one? And then at the end, he lives this history of the people, but when the people, like some cataclysm was going to happen. I don't remember the details. Excuse me, sorry, don't at me. And then the whole species had to sort of figure out how they're going to survive off planet, if at all, and they end up sending just their story in a buoy, and so all of the.
I mean, that would have been a lovely episode to watch, but I guess
I wouldn't tell you which one it is. Though.
The end of that. Now,
come on, it was like 20 years ago. I can't spoil anything for you.
Said that.
Yeah, and the thing is, like Picard experiences like a whole generation of people.
Those. God, I love
because at the end of it, he just wakes up on the bridge. He's like, "What happened?" You know.
And it was like,
yeah. So
I'm excited to do that. Let's do it. I can't wait to do that. That'll be fun.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you hadn't seen that one.
I probably have, but
again, there's other ones as
30 years ago.
We have to watch Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. That episode. Did you know this one? Do you know about this one?
I don't know how much I've seen. Oh my god! All I really remember are the Borg ones, if I'm honest.
The bald ones.
Borg.
Oh, the Borg ones. Yeah. Well, everyone knows those ones. Everyone's
so great. Yeah. I rewatched those.
Borg has been like because I know that it came out at the time and it was such a big threat. And then, but the thing is. Where do you go with such a life-changing threat once you've had sort of we almost died as a civilization? What do you do with that? Okay, that's fast forward to Voyager. We'll do Borg, but we figured out how to defeat them. We figured out a weakness kind of thing. So it was a bit lessened by the time I watched TNG with the Borg episodes because it wasn't a bit like, oh my god, because I knew it was like, oh no, Picard becomes a Borg, but it's not going to stay that way. So it was a little bit lessened, but I do get it.
I remember watching that one though because it was the season finale, and then you had to wait until after summer, and then we were in Bahrain, and it was like they better fucking play it in order because again, like they get VHS tapes by fucking carrier pigeon every now and then. You're like, please let this be in the right order.
Did you write to the station chief and was like, hi,
please Bahrain 55,
please for my little sci-fi boy in my brain, I have to watch them in order. I need to know what happens to Captain Picard, because if he's gonna stay at work, I'm gonna cry. Yeah, so there's that one and a couple other ones. The Darmok one was basically they encounter a civilization where I'll just give you the premise.
The whole. Do you get
communication is the issue?
The point is, I think we're straying off topic. That's not a rewatch for you. That's just watching.
I would but I would like to watch it with you to see how you.
Okay, so you can comment on it when you've rewatched it, but at the moment you've only watched it.
Right. Okay.
So let's not get too far into a Star Trek rabbit hole, because we'll save that great content for another episode.
My main point is that I'm just thinking of episodes that I would like to rewatch, because I have my own list in my head what I think are good episodes. And then I see stuff online where they say, no, that episode's really good. That one's really loved. I'm like, why? And then I'll rewatch it and I'll be like, oh, okay. Or like, no, they're stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be able to sort of
fair enough
have that kind of opinion.
Getting back onto topic for Voyager.
I'm sorry, can we go on topic on Star Trek? Is this the kind of podcast that we go?
How awful.
This is a geeky podcast.
Because when we were going to do the Voyager finale, I wanted to have rewatched every episode up until that point. So I did a proper rewatch. Mm-hmm. Some of those I'd missed because you don't see all the episodes, but doing a rewatch of a show, like I said at the beginning, like the excitement obviously will never be there. The first time you watch this in the 90s, when you're like, it's a female captain, and like, oh, it's a new Star Trek.
Yeah.
The insanity, and then the season 3 finale that we rewatched, the first time you see that on TV or VHS, it's just crazy excitement. The joy and comfort and love of rewatching it 20, 30 years later. Oh my God.
It's been a while.
25 years later.
You need a drink.
It's similar to kind of like with the DS9, because you know what happens. It's less stressful, because obviously there's a very clear premise of Voyager of like every week they're going to try and get home and not get home, because then that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
So when you watch it for the first time, it's quite frustrating and stressful, because oh God, and it doesn't work every time. You know what's happened, and you're not focused on that. You're focused on that, this is when B'Elanna and Tom first see each other. It's like, this is when she's promoted. It's like, this is the bit where that sort of stuff. Or, Kes is getting her powers for the first time. You're not too focused, because you know what happens at the end, because it's a very distinct, story that and a beginning, middle, and end. So you're not focused on that. You're focused on the journey of what they fucking went through. That first season, rewatching it, like seeing how scrappy they were. It's so different from other Star Trek shows, because they're like, we just have to fucking just fix that, throw this at them. And it was just such a, I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first command, and I don't have anyone to talk to. It was just
they had to struggle to get a new crew put together.
You can just watch it for that. Oh my God, look at what these people went through.
Were they like always in pursuit as well in the first season as well?
A lot of it, because they tried to make the Kazon a thing, and everyone hated the Kazon. I thought the Kazon were good, but each their own. I also thought Threshold was fine.
No, get out.
It was fine.
Get out.
I have no problem with Threshold. But everybody loved the holographic Doctor, and I think he's a fucking pervert and cannot stand him.
That's a rewatch thing for me.
I liked him the first time.
Yeah.
As a grown up now, I'm like, ew.
Some of the things he's knowing, like,
gross.
I'm like, why?
Oh. Anyway, so having that, knowing what the end is and not being stressed out about it and that sort of stuff, you just get to watch it in retrospect and see all the fun parts of the journey and see the, it's like someone's autobiography, like hearing the origin stories of it, sort of thing. It's always fun and engaging and still lovely. So definitely additive because of all that.
So did you rewatch all of it and then stop at the finale, waiting for me?
I think I've got 2 episodes and then the finale.
Okay, I think I'm on episode maybe like 7 or 8 of the final season.
Okay, great. So, if you did some work and watched it, we'd be caught up, but fine.
I am literally taking notes of every episode.
There's so we
did a recap back on episode 50. Listen to Incomplete Geeks episode 50. A recap of
50
the first
was Emma Frost.
49 then.
It might
Whatever
have
our
been 49.
Scorpion episode was.
Scorpion was so
that
fucking good.
We did a recap of the first 3 seasons, and then since then
49A and 49B.
Because we want to do
Because we didn't want to do
50.
50. Because it was the 50th episode.
Maybe for 100, we should just skip 100, go from like 99 to 101.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want it there.
Because it is like 101st episode. Since then, I've taken notes of starting with season 4, I've taken notes on almost every episode.
I haven't been as meticulous, but I've taken lots of notes. Hopefully we'll get there one day.
If you would like us to rewatch all of Voyager and give notes similar to DS9 and give a little recap of every episode, for Patreon subscribers only, let us know. You can choose. If you want to give us money, that you can
give us money.
You can dictate what we talk about. That's fine.
So you can dick us. Sorry. Do you want one that you like or one that you don't like?
Oh, we did with Star Trek. That was good.
That was Star Trek.
One that I don't like. That I don't like.
I don't know if you don't like this one. I think you don't. Well, maybe you do. Sherlock was mentioned quite a lot.
Oh, fuck off.
Okay, good. I've
Would
only watched it. I would never dream of rewatching it because he gets on my tits.
Why do people want to rewatch Sherlock? Is it because they know? Because
they know the Moriarty? That's not a huge amount, though, is it?
What Moriarty twist? He's
gay.
He's not dead because he's gay.
Was he not dead?
I don't think the character is. I don't actually.
He played gay.
You know what?
He
played very flamboyant, shall we say?
But he is gay, so he's allowed to do that.
Yes, definitely. But I don't know if Sherlock. Anyway, I don't know if the character. Anyway, I don't actually remember, and I don't care because it was so awful towards the end about whether Moriarty was alive or not. I genuinely don't remember if it came.
How many seasons did it do?
Like 4. But the British season, so every season is like 3 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. 6 episodes. You say that, but Agatha, everything's 6 to 8 episodes.
It's okay because like HBO did the first one. They had like 10 episodes a season.
I know.
That's a good number to aim for. Anyway,
I think
I think I'm gonna speculate here. I think people want to watch Sherlock again because of the mystery. Like just as a mystery, people have always loved mysteries for the fact that like there's clues, revelation. And if you know what the revelation is beforehand, great, good on you. And if you don't, you're like, I get it. Ooh, I figured out the puzzle. It's why people do puzzles. Then you can rewatch or reread the mystery and sort of say, oh, that's why that happened. That's why that happened. Agatha Christie does the same thing with all of the Poirot stuff. And I think of Poirot specifically because that's who I read. But like all the stuff where there's just clues dropped in there, and you're like, that's what that clue meant. That's what that clue meant. And it's basically putting a puzzle together. So if you want to watch Sherlock, my speculation is that you want to see the clues and how the character puts them together, and you get to see if he's right or wrong at the end. But
again, knowing the ending, if you know who the bad guy is, then sometimes it's fun to watch it that way through.
But it's different than like a show where we mentioned earlier, like Game of Thrones, or where we talk about if we want to live the storytelling again vicariously through somebody else if we can, not with Sherlock, because if there's no joy in watching somebody else.
I mean, there was no joy in Sherlock, but that's just my opinion.
A couple of the first episodes were like, okay, it's clever, like it's not technically deductive reasoning, don't get me started, but like he's putting together clues.
Wait, what?
Deduction is not the same as inductive reasoning, which is what he's actually using. Deductive means like A follows B follows C, so that's the only way to think it. He's just making guesses. He's making educated guesses on clues, which is not the same as deductive reasoning.
Do you think it's deduction in the books, and for the TV show it's not? I like the books.
No, I think I've only read a couple of the stories, but I think that
they're all short stories anyway, aren't they?
Relatively short,
apart from Baskerville.
A couple longer ones. Baskerville's a long one, and I did read that one. I don't know because. I think in the books, it's not actually revealed how his brain is working oftentimes. Sometimes when he talks to Watson, you get an idea of like, aha, well, she said this because she has this kind of thing that's going on with her, and that's a tell because this. But other times, especially in Hound of the Baskervilles, he's just doing things that because you're in the POV of Watson, you don't actually know why he's doing them, and so it's a bit different. But I think in the TV show, you clearly in Sherlock's head, and with all the CGI sort of things flashing by, and deduction is this very specific technical term that they misuse.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't think it's the same kind of joy rewatching you don't get the same joy as putting together the puzzle. If I did a crossword puzzle, I'm not going to erase the letters and do it again. You know, like I've done the puzzle. Like I don't need to like. There's no extra joy in experiencing the problem solving again.
Scooby-Doo, Witch's Island.
Oh, moving on. Scooby-Doo. I don't like Scooby-Doo.
I used to love Scooby-Doo. I think I would still enjoy Scooby-Doo. If a modern film came on, I would still watch it.
Did they make some newer cartoons, I think?
Yeah, they're always making them. Grey DeLise, or whatever her name is now, is Grey DeLise was her name, and now she's married, and I don't know what she's changed it to.
Oh, I think it's pronounced Delisle. I could be wrong.
Oh.
L-I-S-L-E.
I don't know if I heard it, or I'm assuming that.
Anyway,
you know, she's Daphne, so I will watch anything she's in. And Frank Welker is still Fred.
Her Wikipedia says Delisle.
Pronounced Delisle?
Yeah.
It's, again, just me assuming that's how it's pronounced. But what's she called now?
Grey Griffin. Oh, Grey Griffin! Because I recognize them. I didn't know that was the same person. Grey Griffin from Avatar, right?
Yes, well, she was Grey Delisle in Avatar.
I thought she was... Anyway.
But yes... So, anyway, yeah, she's Daphne, and I love her, and I love Frank Welker. So, you know, if there's a new Scooby-Doo, I'll watch that.
Good.
Shall we segue on? That wasn't planned.
But wait, hang on a second. Would you rewatch it?
What, Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
No, that was a joke, because you were talking about knowing the clues, and that was being funny. I'm not talking about Scooby-Doo.
I was like, why would you rewatch Scooby-Doo? You know who the monster is.
I might watch the films again. We'll move on.
Yes.
To Grey's seminal work in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Right. Like a natural...
Which wasn't intended. Like, I would have probably saved that to last, because that is my favorite television show of all time. Mm-hmm. It is the hands down easiest, best cartoon that's ever been produced.
Mm-hmm. I'll go with you, yeah.
And I would argue probably the best TV show that's ever been produced.
The cartoon. The animated.
Oh, fuck. Sorry.
Just to be
I didn't
clear.
think that needed clarification. The animated original Nickelodeon Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's one of the shows that I will always, for the rest of my days, rewatch at some point. I used to do it quite religiously. So, like, once a year, rewatch it all, that sort of stuff.
Sorry, I'm trying to find something specific on her filmography, and it's so
fucking long. You'll never find it.
Every other thing is Scooby-Doo, so anyway.
It's a lot of Scooby-Doo.
I'm trying to figure out where I know the term Grey Griffin, but it must be
more recent ones.
Yeah.
She's in lots of stuff. She's in... another one that I just thought of that she's in. We'll connect that dot later. Yeah, it's one of the ones that I always would religiously rewatch, and had to start, like, taking a break from it. Well, then Korra came out, so I was like, I'll just...
She did some voices in Korra as well. Or is she the same character as well? No, she's not.
She's not. She does a flashback. I think she's young Sue or young Lin. One of them. And she's Ming-Hua. She's fucking Ming-Hua. She would have been Griffin in that.
In Korra?
Yes.
Okay.
The armless waterbender.
I haven't seen Korra.
Join our Patreon.
If you want us to rewatch
and
Korra.
We'll watch Korra, and you'll watch me sit next to John and try not to react.
Trying to be like, yeah.
It's not as good as Avatar, but that's fine. It builds on it. Anyway, yes. And I had to start spacing it out.
Invincible. That's what I know her from.
Who's she in Invincible?
She is Monster Girl.
Yes, okay. I mean, that's not really her most famous
that's not her famous
work.
That's where I recognize the name.
Sure. I mean, we could do an entire episode on her. Could we do an entire episode on, like, voice actors? Like, pick a voice actor?
Could. That's
Frank Welker, Tress MacNeille.
Tress MacNeille, definitely. Nolan North.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that'd be a great one. Let's do it. I'm happy to. Anything that gets a talking about content. Add it to our Patreon list.
It's already set up. It's already set up. Patreon.com/gaygeeks.
Yeah, I had to... Fucking hell. How many times have I said this? Stop myself from watching it too often because I didn't want to get bored of it.
Over Avatar.
Like, I didn't want it just to be like, yeah, I'll put it on. And it wasn't something I sat down and loved and watched and looked for new stuff and really enjoyed. So I took a bit of a break from it. Then the pandemic happened. And I needed joy and love in my life. And it had been a few years since I'd rewatched it then, and I decided I'd rewatch the whole thing. And I swear to God, it was one of the best rewatches ever. Cried at the ending again, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was an emotional time. It was a tough time.
Also, pandemic is...
Yes, it was an emotional time. And again, God, I really wish I could erase my memory and watch it for the first time again.
But then you're not rewatching it.
I know, but I can't. So what
about it? What about the rewatch is appealing to you? Is it the fact that are you experiencing the journey again?
It's more that you get to be in that world again. The world building is so brilliant and so consistent, and the characters are so... Even the background characters are so fleshed out and good and that sort of stuff. And it's like with anything, like bits that you probably would have dismissed before, you're like, I don't really care about this part as much as I enjoy this part. When you rewatch it, because you're not in a rush to get to the next episode or the next big Avatar fight scene or the next two-parter and that sort of stuff. You just like let these ones that kind of were like filler episodes.
World building episodes.
And you get to see them just be stupid characters, and you're like, it's so much more fun.
That's really good. That's really important, because a lot of especially when you try to condense a TV show to a film, for example, or like a miniseries, like you don't have time to let the characters live and develop and just be human, because that aspect of being human is what we as viewers connect with.
Yeah.
And so we have a show like Avatar, which, to be honest, I'm not sure I would rewatch the whole thing again. I've seen it once. I wouldn't watch the whole thing again, but I have to watch a couple of the episodes that stand out.
You should no. You
You think I should rewatch it?
You have to, because you can't dip in like other shows.
I don't know. I don't know. Because before I knew that you were a big fan of it, maybe even before we started this, like I watched because I didn't know there was only 3 seasons, and I had friends from America who were like talking about it. I was like, I better watch this show because apparently it's good. I'll do whatever you tell me to if you tell me it's good. So I watched it all, and I watched it fairly quickly, so I couldn't.
Oh no!
So I couldn't tell you now, like individual episodes.
See, yeah, you're just rushing to get to the big battle at the end, right?
Next I'm rushing to see like, okay, I get it.
Move the story. I'm
not doing anything for the next 4 hours in this.
And because
14 days because it's the pandemic.
When I was watching it during the pandemic, it was more rationing it, because this is my favorite show and I don't want it to be over yet again. So it was like I would watch one on a Saturday and that's it, and that sort of thing, to kind of stretch it out. And then you just have that one little episode. You're not in any rush. Again, when I watched it, it was on TV, so I had to wait every week.
I think that's a big point to make when you if you want to enjoy a TV show, you can't binge it.
No,
because when you watch shows,
it.
Like for me, the example that I can think of is Lost, where you have a week between episodes where you can sit, you go online. Is it on the list as well?
Lost is on the list.
We're ready to segue to the next one.
Yeah.
You can go online and you can speculate with other fans on the forums. They're like, oh, what about this thing? Oh, did you zoom in here? Rewatch it and zoom in. They're like, oh, that symbol that's appeared elsewhere, kind of thing. It's like you can't do that if you're binging. So yes, that's the point. That's all.
Something I've never done in a rewatch, which you can do now.
Which is why I'm taking so long to watch Voyager, by the way, because I want to enjoy it. I'm watching.
Yes. It's true. I didn't like to. I'll do 3 episodes, and that's it. The most I would do of a rewatch. Rewatching it now, like you can go online and have like a breakdown and talk about that sort of stuff. Like join our Patreon, that sort of thing, or go on to that sort of thing. Because people, especially for the stuff that we're rewatching and loving, people are obsessed about it as well.
Yeah.
So you could even, if you wanted to like do it once a week, you could say like, I've just rewatched this, and like, and go into full details, and everyone will be like, no, and when that bitch did that, oh god, this was that. Actually, I'm on his side, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So you can kind of not recreate it, because again, you know what's going to happen, but
you can guide.
The world is, the internet's open now.
Yeah.
You have all these people, and there's no spoilers, so people can get involved. And it's like, oh, it's just building up to this thing. It's like, oh,
I think that's why
you could enjoy it in a different way.
That's why there's YouTube channels that I have watched where it's like, let's recap the episode that's just been on and break it down, kind of thing. Which I don't know if that still would be worth it after we have the whole episode, because a lot of it's speculation. But what I would prefer is if you had, like, if we did a Patreon and sort of give a review of every single episode, we'll give you our thoughts so far. For example, if we did DS9, we cannot speculate. We don't know what's going to happen, so we can't give spoilers or say, oh, that person is going to appear later on. Just to sort of then you have to be with the person who's watching it in real time. If you can't do that with breakdowns nowadays, because they're going to say, oh, in the comics this person goes on to do this. You're like, well, that's too much. When I was watching Game of Thrones, I was rewatching it. And I started a blog where I said, let me give you the background. Read my blog about the background, then watch one episode, and then read my blog that recaps that episode, because I will point out things without spoilers and just say, that means when he said that means referring to this. When he said this, keep an eye on this. You know, what did he say about that one? What do you think that means? Kind of thing.
How many episodes did you do that for?
One. Literally one. Because A, it was too much.
It's too much work.
And then B, that was the big problem. And then B, that was when the show started to go a bit downhill. Because I was watching it and I was like, this show is too good not to watch. And I had a job where people were like, I never really watched it. I get lost by the number of characters. I can't keep track. I'm like, no, I'll blog it for you. I'll tell you.
No.
Anyway.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
But it was a good idea at the time. But like, because even if you do, my point is that even if you do that, you're forcing yourself to have a break in between episodes to think about it, process it, so you're not binging it.
Yes. But also rewatching it and talking to people online about it, especially for these nerd communities where people love it so much, it's fun that you can, for each individual episode, people will have their points of view and their opinions and that sort of thing. I'll go on to segue onto another one, not Lost, sorry. Charmed.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my most rewatched show.
All right.
It, for some reason, doesn't... Because it... Well, not that. Well, I love that it's aged. Like, they don't have giant cell phones and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't... Like, with Buffy, I don't want to rewatch it too much. Like, I've only rewatched a little bit. Avatar, I don't want to rewatch it too much. Charm seems invulnerable to rewatch fatigue.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of to the level of, like, for Friends, for some people, that sort of stuff. It's so... I know it inside and out, and it's just always comforting, but always still magic-y power, that sort of stuff.
Is that more like nostalgia, or is that more like...
No, but I still love it, and I'm still watching it. I don't put it on and, like, do something else in the background. Yeah. I'm watching it every time.
Right, okay.
But I don't know why it's that perfect mix of... Because it's good, but it's not too good. When a show... Sorry, Shannon. When Buffy was better written story, that sort of stuff. So, and Avatar, that sort of stuff. When it's too good, you don't want to ruin it. When it's a little bit cheap and shitty, like not shitty, but like a little bit like
rough around the edges.
Doesn't take itself, doesn't whatever. I don't know. Sorry, I'm gonna get fucking killed. It's not as
don't at us.
The storyline, especially after Shannon leaves, it's not as good. So it's less pressure to. Does that make sense?
I think so. I never really watched Charmed in any sort of serious capacity, but
so
I'm wondering if it's not a really high, what's the word, like a high production value kind of show.
Yes. Well, it was then, but now it doesn't age as well.
So are you watching it for the journey of the characters? Like, is there an overarching plot line for some of these characters that you watch?
A little bit, but it's more fun, possibly because there's the cast change, because Shannon was the star and then left. That's coming.
How does she leave?
I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, you can spoil me.
No.
Does she die?
She gets killed off, yes.
Ooh!
Which is always dramatic because it's the best.
Was it tragic?
Brilliant episode. The episode was brilliant, but she wasn't killed off in the episode because she was supposed to come back.
Right.
And then was fired over the hiatus and then didn't come back. So it works perfectly. The ending of season 3 is the episode is brilliant. She directed it. Is the best of the whole show. Okay. But it didn't have to be her death. That was
her last episode?
Yes.
And she directed it.
She did.
Okay.
But it didn't have to be her death. Anyway, which is so good, and it's always emotional, and it's kind of, because that change in these characters happens, so you're kind of enjoying the Prue years, knowing it's going to end, so you have that different kind of, like with Voyager, you're looking back at it knowing what the ending is, but this one's a little bit more
years.
It's a little bit more tragic and everything like that. My point with this was, like so many others, but I think Charmed is pretty special, Buffy as well. There's so many people who just watch and rewatch, and a mutual on TikTok, my personal mutual, Galen, his entire account is just talking about Charmed episodes. Like so many people. He just says like, I just rewatched this and I'm going to speak on this. Leo is trash, by the way. And so you don't have to watch it in order, but you could come onto TikTok, you could come onto a podcast and you could say like, I've just rewatched this episode. Oh my God, I just noticed this, this, and this. Or like, I love this, I didn't love this. And people will be like, yes, I just rewatched that last month, year, week. Oh, I love that episode. I always thought that. So it's not that live week by week thing that you had when you watched it the first time. You can dip in and out, but if it's the right fandom, if it's the right show, people are still there and they'll still give you that. It's like, see, I always thought of it like this. You're like, oh my God. And
because they know exactly what you're talking about.
And when you love it, and when Galen loves it and he talks about it, it's like, yes, I love that episode. Or like, I never thought of it like that. And it's so joyous to see other people talking about the same things that you love and that sort of stuff. So
maybe
in that way,
do that on my TikTok and just sort of every episode of Voyager, I'm like, you know what? This episode is so stupid, and here's why. Or I loved it, and here's why.
I did one where I talked about Chakotay and why I hated Chakotay. It's like, I've just rewatched it and like, Chakotay's an asshole because of this and then that sort of thing. So you always have, with the way that we connect online, there's so many ways that a rewatch could also be a rediscovering of it, because you can then invite other people's because it's not spoilers and you can just kind of go at your own pace. I don't know. But then I think that's really lovely and there's nostalgia. But then I didn't have that when, in the 90s when this was out. You had your mate that you talked about Buffy with, but that was it.
But that's not a rewatch then. That's it. Because I take it back. I can't do that with Voyager because they would be reactions for me.
Yes.
And they're not the same as, because if what you're talking about,
because someone will say, but in that next episode,
just you wait until,
literally, just you wait.
What? Me? You're looking at me. Just I wait. Well, I just watched the one where...
Are we getting off topic again?
Yeah. It's Star Trek, though. What do you expect?
Is it only Star Trek that we get off topic on?
No, but it's usually
so Charmed.
The longest one.
Charmed is a great rewatch.
Next.
I think we should wrap up because we've done over an hour.
Okay, yeah, fine. Do you have any big ones?
Well, I have one that I thought has been both. It's been a really great rewatch. And then more recently, I tried to rewatch it, and I was like, absolutely not.
Okay.
True Blood.
Oh, good one.
When I rewatched it with my friend years and years ago, so it was either just wrapping up or rewatching earlier seasons and that sort of stuff to catch up, or just as it finished. Great fun. That show was so camp and so sexy and so hot. It was great. And like a year or so ago, whether it was... someone was TikToking about Alcide, or I don't know. It was all over the place. And I was like, I'm going to watch True Blood again. Yeah. Like, it's great fun. Or maybe when we did the vampire, like the Halloween gay vampire episode. And I was like, I'm going to watch True Blood again. Yeah. But the first episode on, I was like, I can't sit through all of this.
No.
Because it was still the era of 20-something episodes of TV. And I was like, I want to get to the part where Pam's like a lesbian. I know. It's like, I want to get to where Pam's like, that is so many episodes of Bill and Sookie crap that you have to sit through to get to these cool, moments. Fun, sexy points.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was like, I just enjoy it because everyone's like, but like,
everyone's just slightly sweaty
and naked, right. and like, which is great. But it's like, it's such a long, the first season is so far before you get to like good character growth. You're like, oh my God, it's so long before Tara becomes a vampire. It's so long.
Which I hated, by the way.
I did hate it, but, more lesbian, so it's fine. It was just, I was like, I can't do it. I can't sit through a whole season of Bill and Sookie.
And there's
to get to
there's no
Bill cutting his hair in season 2. Not Bill.
Really? Cutting his hair?
Skarsgård. Eric. Eric cutting his hair in
yeah.
season 2. And then being like a fair, all that stuff. It takes so long to get to just those fun little bits. Yeah. Like I wanted to see Warlow when he was naked and sexy and all that kind of stuff. The witches and all that kind of bits. But it's so long you have to get through to get there. It's like, it doesn't work.
Yeah. It sounds like that kind of TV show where you wouldn't watch it again because the nostalgia is literally just sexy people.
Yeah.
With their skin
I don't
showing.
I don't love the characters. I just love their hot, sexy, naked bodies.
Yeah. Like when you watch a show the first time.
Which I hear so often about our show. It's
I know, right?
So, and it's a tough axe to bear.
We do hear you.
I'm sorry.
But no, when you're watching a show like that the first time, the nakedness is just icing on the cake. It's like, it's not why you watch it.
No, it's why I watched it the first time.
So
but then when you go back, there's
doesn't
not enough
have rewatch
substance.
value. Yeah, exactly.
It misses a bit of it. I'd rather just watch clip compilations of a few good scenes on TikTok. And that's kind of.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sure there's loads more, dear listener, dear viewer.
What else?
If there was, shows that you think are better on a rewatch, shows. There's a whole world of shows that are completely different and crap on a rewatch, which I think I also love. I love when a show that I idolized when I was younger and you rewatch and you're like, oh, you're really problematic. Don't like you anymore. I love that. It doesn't always make me hate the show. I just like watching and hating the show, like Carrie from Sex and the City. I love watching it now, hating her, rather than like, oh, Carrie's so cool. Okay. Now it's like, you're awful, brilliant, more. Don't worry about it. So I'm sure there's other shows that are terrible on a rewatch.
Yeah. How would they let us know?
You can write to us, incompletegeekspodcast@gmail.com, or you can message us, TikTok us, don't tweet us because we're not there.
We're not there.
Stitch us, tag us, whatever you want to do on the socials, Instagram and TikTok. We are at Incomplete Geeks.
While you're there, give us a like, follow our stuff, rate this episode because that actually does really help, or give it a 5-star review. Tell your friends. Every little bit helps. If you want to help us, like I said, we don't read ads. It's not free what we do. So if you want to help us out on Patreon, and you can, please do that. Please go to patreon.com/gaygeeks and help us out. You can donate as little as,
or even just follow us. It's like,
or follow us if you can. That'd be great. Let us know because sometimes we like you probably heard today. You don't know everything.
Wrong. I'm sure I got a lot wrong.
It's not like we're complete geeks,
but we are working on it.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
I still love how we just paused at the end. Okay.